Shalom. I'm Ezra Solomon. You're waiting for perfect conditions before you take action, and that waiting is destroying your character. Today, I'm teaching you bitachon, the Hebrew principle of acting as if everything is already working in your favor. This will feel backwards. That's exactly why it works. Let me destroy the comfortable lie you've been living with. You tell yourself, I'll be confident when things work out. I'll take real action when I feel ready. I need proof before I fully commit. And every single day you wait for these conditions, you're building the wrong character. Here's the trap. This reactive mindset keeps you permanently stuck, always one step behind your potential. You're training yourself to need external validation before you develop internal strength. You're disciplining yourself in waiting, not in building. Modern culture reinforces this weakness. We're taught evidence-based confidence. Wait for the promotion before you act like a leader. Wait for the relationship before you become the person worthy of one. Wait for the business success before you make bold decisions. It sounds reasonable. It's actually a prison. And here's what happens. You wait for confidence, so you take timid action. Timid action produces weak results. Weak results confirm you weren't ready. Now you need even more proof before trying again. The cycle deepens. You become someone who waits for permission from circumstances. I see this everywhere. Smart people, capable people, stuck in this pattern for years. They read more books, take more courses, wait for more savings, better timing, stronger networks. Meanwhile, their character deteriorates, not because they're lazy, because they're disciplining themselves in preparation instead of action. From my background in psychology, I can tell you this. Your brain doesn't distinguish between not ready yet and not capable ever. When you repeatedly postpone action until you feel ready, you're teaching your nervous system that you're someone who needs perfect conditions. You're building the identity of someone who waits, and every day this continues, the cost increases. Not just lost time, not just missed opportunities, character deterioration. You're becoming someone who needs circumstances to be favorable before you can be strong. That's the opposite of discipline. The ancient Jews understood something we've forgotten. They had a principle called bitachon, not blind optimism, not positive thinking, something much more powerful. They understood that you don't wait for evidence to build trust. You build trust through disciplined action, and evidence follows. Here's the truth. Modern self-help won't tell you. Discipline requires you to act as if you're already the person you're becoming, before you feel it, before you see proof, before circumstances confirm it. That's what builds character. That's bitachon. Let me introduce you to the Hebrew concept that changes everything, bitachon. In English, we translate it as trust or inner security, but that barely scratches the surface. This is not hope. This is not wishful thinking. This is disciplined conviction that shapes reality through character-building action. In the Talmud, the ancient rabbis made a crucial distinction. They separated foolish hope from disciplined trust. Foolish hope says, everything will magically work out. That's weakness disguised as positivity. Bitachon says, I will act with the strength of someone who trusts the process, regardless of current conditions. That's character. Here's the core principle. You don't wait for evidence to build trust. You build trust through action, and evidence follows. This reverses everything modern thinking teaches. Modern thinking says, see it, believe it, then act. Hebrew discipline says, act, build belief through discipline, then you'll see. Let me explain the psychological mechanism, because this isn't mystical. It's how your brain actually works. When you act with bitachon, you're engaging in what neuroscience calls behavioral activation. Your actions create neural pathways before your emotions catch up. You're literally rewiring your brain through disciplined behavior. Research shows that identity follows behavior more reliably than behavior follows identity. You don't need to feel like a confident person before acting confidently. You act confidently, consistently, and your brain updates your self-concept to match your actions. But here's the requirement: consistency. One day changes nothing. 30 days of disciplined practice rewires everything. The rabbis taught this in Pirkei Avot. According to the effort is the reward, not according to the feeling, not according to the circumstances, according to the disciplined effort you put into building character through action. When you practice bitachon, you're not pretending, you're not faking it, you're practicing the character you're building. There's a massive difference. Pretending is dishonest, practicing is discipline. You're training yourself to be someone who acts from inner strength rather than external proof. Here's what this looks like practically. A person without bitachon waits for the meeting to go well before feeling confident. A person with bitachon enters the meeting acting as if they're already the person who handles these meetings with strength, regardless of outcome. Same situation, different character, completely different result. And here's the mechanism you need to understand. When you act with bitachon, you're not ignoring reality. You're refusing to let current reality define your character. You're building the internal strength that eventually creates favorable external conditions. Let me tell you about David, 31 years old, intelligent, talented, completely paralyzed. He had a business idea, a good one, but he spent 3 years preparing to launch instead of actually launching. David's pattern was textbook reactive mindset. He needed guarantees before taking action, required feeling confident before acting confidently, waited for perfect market conditions, sufficient capital, ironclad business plan. It all sounded so reasonable. Year one, he told himself he needed more money saved. So he worked his corporate job, saved aggressively, lived below his means. Disciplined, right? Wrong. He was disciplining himself in waiting, not building. Year two, the savings goal was met. New excuse. I need more experience first. Let me take some courses, read more books, understand the industry better. More preparation, more waiting. Still zero action on the actual business. Year three, he had the knowledge, he had the capital. Market conditions were actually favorable, but now he needed a stronger network, better connections, more mentorship, one more conference, one more introduction. I met David at the end of year three. He came to me frustrated, confused. Ezra, I've done everything right. I've prepared thoroughly. Why am I still stuck? Here's what I told him. You haven't done everything right. You've done everything safe. You've built the character of someone who waits for permission from circumstances. You've disciplined yourself in preparation, but discipline without action is just sophisticated procrastination. The truth hit him hard. He wasn't lacking resources. He was lacking bitachon. He had spent 3 years waiting for conditions to be favorable instead of acting as if he was already the person capable of handling unfavorable conditions. David's excuse cycle was perfect. Achieve one milestone, immediately create a new requirement. Save the money, need the experience. Get the experience, need better timing. Find better timing, need stronger network. The goalpost constantly moving, always just out of reach. But here's what really broke him. He realized he'd become someone who needs external validation before taking internal action. His character had actually weakened over those 3 years, not strengthened. He was more fearful at 31 than he'd been at 28, despite being objectively more prepared. He said to me, Ezra, I was building the identity of someone who waits, not someone who builds. Exactly. And every day he continued that pattern. He strengthened the wrong character, not just lost time, lost identity. That's the real cost of waiting for favorable conditions. Let me give you the exact framework for practicing bitachon. 4 daily disciplines that build the character of someone who acts with inner trust instead of waiting for external proof. Practice 1. Morning Identity Declaration. Before you check your phone, before you look at email, before you consume anything external, you declare who you're becoming. Not affirmations, identity statements. I am building a successful business. Not, I hope to become successful. Not, I want to feel confident. You state the identity you're practicing. This is ancient Hebrew wisdom. Words backed by disciplined action shape reality. You're setting your internal state before external circumstances can dictate it. 2 minutes, non-negotiable. Practice 2. Act from the end state. Every single day, you take one action that your future successful self would take. Not fake it, practice it. The discipline is in the doing without the feeling. If the successful version of you makes difficult calls first thing in the morning, you make difficult calls first thing in the morning. Today, before you feel ready, you're not pretending to be that person. You're practicing being that person. Your brain doesn't know the difference. The neural pathways strengthen either way. Practice 3. Cheshbon Hanefesh for Bitachon. In Jewish tradition, Cheshbon Hanefesh means accounting of the soul. Every evening you conduct an honest review. You ask one question: where did I wait for proof instead of acting with trust today? You track the gap between who you're becoming and how you actually showed up. No judgment, just honest confrontation. This is character building through self-awareness. You write it down. You see the pattern. You adjust tomorrow. Practice 4. The Weekly Gevurah Challenge. Gevurah means strength in Hebrew. Once per week, you do the thing you've been waiting to feel ready for, the thing that scares you, the action you've postponed until conditions improve. You do it anyway. This isn't recklessness. This is building the character that creates favorable conditions instead of waiting for them. Here's the psychological backing. Consistent identity-aligned action rewires neural pathways faster than waiting for emotional readiness. Every time you act before you feel ready, you're strengthening your prefrontal cortex, your decision-making center. You're weakening your amygdala reactivity, your fear response. This is measurable. This is proven. The discipline, 30 days minimum, not 3 days, not when it feels right. 30 consecutive days of these 4 practices. That's how character transforms. I know exactly what you're thinking right now. Ezra, this sounds like setting myself up for disappointment. What if I act with confidence and everything falls apart? What if I fail? Let me be direct with you. This fear is legitimate. Acting with bitachon when circumstances are uncertain does feel dangerous. You're right to notice the risk. But here's what you're missing. You're not choosing between risk and safety. You're choosing between 2 different risks. Risk 1, act with disciplined trust, possibly face external failure, but definitely build internal character. Risk 2, wait for favorable conditions, avoid immediate discomfort, but guarantee character deterioration. You think waiting protects you from failure. Actually, waiting is the failure. It's failing to build the character you need. Let me reframe this completely. You're not ignoring reality when you practice bitachon. You're refusing to let current reality define your character. Massive difference. Reality says your business might fail. Bitachon says you'll become someone stronger through disciplined action, regardless of outcome. The question isn't, what if I fail? The question is, what character am I building through this discipline? In the Torah, look at Moses at the Red Sea. Unfavorable conditions would be an understatement. Egyptian army behind him, ocean in front of him, entire nation depending on him. He didn't wait for favorable conditions. He acted with bitachon, raised his staff, walked forward, and the sea split. Look at David facing Goliath, a teenager with a slingshot against a trained warrior. objectively impossible odds. He didn't wait until he felt ready or circumstances improved. He acted from the identity of someone who trusted the strength within him. Modern culture misunderstands these stories completely. We think they succeeded because they were specially chosen, magically protected. Wrong. They were strengthened because they acted as if before seeing proof. The favorable conditions came after the disciplined action, not before. Here's the truth. Bitachon doesn't guarantee external success. It guarantees internal strengthening. And strong character eventually creates favorable conditions because you stop needing perfect circumstances before taking action. You want to know what really happens when you fail while practicing bitachon? You become someone who fails with strength instead of someone who avoids failure through weakness. That character difference is everything. The ancient rabbis taught, "It is not your duty to finish the work, but neither are you free to neglect it." You act with discipline, you build character, the results take care of themselves. That's bitachon. That's how you win regardless of outcome. Now let me tell you about Sarah, 28 years old, facing the same uncertain conditions as David, but she chose the disciplined path instead of the waiting path. Sarah lost her corporate job, savings running low, market conditions uncertain, objectively unfavorable circumstances. The conventional wisdom was clear: wait for better timing, find another safe job, postpone the business idea until conditions improve. But Sarah had been studying Musar, the Jewish tradition of character development. She understood bitachon, not intellectually, practically. She made a decision that terrified her. She would act as if she was already a successful business owner, starting immediately. Week one was brutal. She made calls she was terrified to make, took meetings without feeling remotely ready, pitched services before she felt qualified. Her Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination toward comfort, was screaming, "You're not ready. You need more preparation. This is reckless." But she had discipline. She did it anyway. Month one, no external evidence of success yet. No revenue, no validation. Still terrified, but she noticed something profound. Her character was shifting, less paralysis, more decisive action. She was becoming someone who acts despite uncertainty, not someone who waits for certainty before acting. Month three, the first real results appeared. A few clients, some revenue. But here's what mattered more than the money. She had built the identity of someone who creates conditions instead of waiting for them. The business metrics were secondary to the character transformation. Month six, business profitable, growing. But listen to what she told me. This is crucial. Ezra, bitachon didn't make everything easy. The market was still uncertain. I still faced rejection. I still struggled, but it made me stronger than my circumstances. That's the principle proven. Same uncertain world as David faced. Same lack of perfect conditions. Completely different character. Completely different life trajectory. Sarah's discipline was simple, but uncompromising. Every morning, identity declaration. Every day, act from the end state. Every evening, honest accounting of where she waited versus where she acted with trust. Every week, do the thing that scared her. She didn't wait to feel like a business owner. She practiced being a business owner through disciplined action. Her feelings eventually caught up to her behavior. Her circumstances eventually reflected her character. When I asked her what changed, she said, "I stopped asking, 'Am I ready?' and started asking, 'What would the person I'm becoming do right now?' Then I did that every single day." That's bitachon. That's character built through discipline. That's the difference between David's 3 years of waiting and Sarah's 6 months of transformation. Let me bridge the ancient wisdom with modern psychology so you understand exactly why this works. Research in behavioral psychology confirms what the rabbis taught thousands of years ago. Identity follows behavior more reliably than behavior follows identity. You don't need to feel like a confident person before acting confidently. You act confidently, repeatedly, and your self concept updates to match your actions. Here's the mechanism: your brain uses something called cognitive consistency. When your actions contradict your self image, your brain experiences dissonance. To resolve this dissonance, your brain has two options: stop the behavior or update the self image. If you maintain the behavior through discipline, your brain chooses option two. It rewrites your identity to match your actions. This is measurable. Neuroscience shows that consistent action in uncertain conditions strengthens your prefrontal cortex, your decision-making center. It simultaneously weakens amygdala reactivity, your fear response. You're literally building different neural architecture through disciplined practice of bitachon. But here's the requirement: consistency. One day of acting as if does nothing. Your brain dismisses it as anomaly. 30 days of disciplined practice that rewires identity. That's why the ancient practice of Cheshbon Hanefesh was daily, not occasional. Character builds through repetition, not intensity. In Pirkei Avot, the wisdom is explicit. According to the effort is the reward, not according to the feeling, not according to the initial circumstances, according to the sustained disciplined effort. The rabbis understood neuroplasticity before we had the term for it. Here's the hidden advantage: while everyone else waits for motivation, while everyone else postpones action until they feel ready, while everyone else needs proof before commitment, you're building discipline, you're creating evidence through action, you're developing the character that makes favorable conditions irrelevant. The compound effect is exponential. Every disciplined action, as if, increases your capacity for the next one. You practice confidence in one area, it transfers to others. You act with bitachon in business, it strengthens your relationships. You demonstrate trust in uncertainty, it builds across every domain of life. But I need to be clear about what this is not. This is not visualization. This is not manifestation. This is not positive thinking. Those are passive. This is active character building through controlled discomfort. You're not imagining yourself as successful. You're practicing the behaviors successful people practice. You're not manifesting favorable conditions. You're building the character that acts powerfully regardless of conditions. That's the mechanism. That's why bitachon works. Ancient wisdom, modern proof, same truth. Disciplined action shapes identity, and identity shapes reality. Let me recap the principle before I give you the exact steps to start tomorrow. Bitachon is not waiting for favorable conditions. Bitachon is acting with inner trust while building character through discipline. You don't need proof to start. You need discipline to continue. You're not ignoring reality. You're refusing to let reality define your character before you've built it. Here are 3 immediate daily actions, starting tomorrow morning. Action 1, morning identity declaration, 2 minutes. Before you check your phone, before you consume anything external, write one sentence: I am building specific identity. Not I want to become, not I hope to be. I am building. Then immediately, and this is critical, take one small action that person would take. Write the sentence, do the action. 2 minutes total. Track it daily for 30 days. Action 2, Daily Gevura Challenge, 15 minutes. Identify the one thing you're waiting to feel ready for, the call you're postponing, the conversation you're avoiding, the decision you're delaying. Do a smaller version of it today, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Today, document the discomfort and the character growth. This builds the muscle of acting before comfort. Action 3. Evening. Cheshbon Hanefesh, 5 minutes. Every evening, honest accounting. Ask yourself, where did I act with bitachon today? Where did I wait for proof instead of acting with trust? No judgment, just awareness. Write it down, see the pattern, plan tomorrow's trust action. This is how character refines over time. Now tell me in the comments, what's the one thing you've been waiting to feel ready for? What would acting with bitachon look like tomorrow? Be specific. Writing it creates accountability. This isn't a 3-day experiment. Commit to 30 days of practicing bitachon through daily discipline. Your character will transform. I've seen it hundreds of times. If this challenge you're comfortable waiting, subscribe now. Next week, I'm teaching the ancient practice of mastering your Yetzer Hara, how to win the internal war between your discipline and your comfort seeking. You'll need that. Here's your final challenge. Stop waiting for everything to work in your favor. Start acting as if it already is, and build the character that makes it true. That's bitachon. That's discipline. That's how you become someone who creates conditions instead of waiting for them. Shalom.